think it is. It's like, are they seeing this?
Hey, no one's actually seeing this. Hold on. So our friend here, Tony, has this eye twitch. Count how many there are. If you get the right number, it's like guessing the jelly beans.
Yeah. I'm trying to guess the right number.
Yeah, it's like somewhere between 68 and 99.
It's been going on for like 3 weeks. So if anybody knows what to do about this, I did have a weird mini stroke thing last year. It makes me think that it may be coming back.
A little bit of stress getting me, huh?
Yeah, it's a little too much.
Yeah, market's been fun. I guess we'll start doing cold opens from now on. This is good.
Yeah, the market's been good. Stuff is going like crazy. Still facing an inventory struggle in most of the places that we work. I just did one in LaGrange Park last week, and it was amazing. You know, we're talking about just under $500,000 price point.
Seems like a value there.
You know, it's interesting. There's a bi-level house of 1,600 square feet. Now, it was quite nice, but it's just, and it went well over. It's not closed yet, so I can't say, but it went the cost of a cheap car over list price in cash. But at the same time, had one in South Holland that did the same thing, and had one in Munster that did the same thing. I think there's still the upper end of the market isn't quite as busy like that, but there's also not a whole ton of property available. You know, I looked at all of Northwest Indiana yesterday, and I was surprised to see, like, you know, if you look at that like 600 up range, like really very few existing properties.
I think so if you look at Northwest Indiana, right, they absorbed this massive wave from Illinois. And I think Indiana, I want to say last year, they said that they had a 35,000 housing unit shortage year over year in the state. So you multiply that by 2 years, so you're 70,000 units short. Do the math on that. It's no surprise that Indiana houses, like on the region, if you will, existing homes aren't there. And I don't think they can't build fast enough.
They can't build fast enough. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with infrastructure, though, because our roadway system isn't quite as efficient.
I'm at 41 and 30 right now. Is a damn good time.
Yeah,
if you got nothing to do.
They're really swamped. This summer is going to be real difficult. I haven't been down. I've only been back in town a couple of days, and haven't been down 30. But the other day, last week, you know, we live in St. John, and the engine room is at Sheffield in 30.
Yep.
I can get there in like 5 minutes from my house. It took me 35 or 40 the other day. So 30 and Calumet are whacked out. Sheffield's kind of goofed up too.
And then 41 screwed up just north of here a little bit. I don't know if they're trying to like bore under the road and put some water in, but infrastructure is something that you know, it kind of comes up. But at least you look at it on this side of the border, right? And it sucks because there's all the traffic problems and they're expanding. But then you look on the other side, you're like, where'd my tax dollars go over here sometimes? At 394 the other day, I'm swearing, I'm driving my truck. I had a pothole that swallowed a 35-inch tire.
Yeah, it's gotten really bad. As a matter of fact, I don't take my little toy car out, or I like watch it. It's got those low-profile tires on it. And I don't know what they did to Route 30 for just that Taft that comes in from that goes into the square in Crown Point. That at Route 30, and then just east of that on the westbound lane, it's like I call it the whoop section. You know, if you ride dirt bikes, whoop. I don't, and like they just
time
did
it up right.
it's the whole way along. And I told Brandy, I said, you know what? I said, I think we need to just get on the throttle and lift the front end up and try to carry it through this thing. It's absolutely miserable. But the whole thing tells me that kind of, I think, you know, we're still seeing houses are appreciating in value kind of all over, right? And we have a need for infrastructure, which requires tax dollars to do that. And in the end, I think costs and everything, I don't know where this exit to inflation is going, but it seems like sort of everything is still inflating. I would encourage everybody to try to, I guess, make as much money as you can, because you're going to need it.
You got to hurry up and make as much as you can, because it's every day you're making it, it's worth a little bit less.
Yeah, and really, I mean, for a lot of people, you know, if you're productive in your job, you're up for some type of promotion or something. I mean, go for the gusto, because you're going to need it. We were talking this morning a little bit about getting back to taxes. We've been talking a lot about the past couple times about the taxes in Illinois.
Yep.
Right.
The collar counties, right? So all the counties that touch Cook, we were talking about that. All their tax bills came out.
It's basically all the rest of Illinois. There's Chicago and then there's Illinois. And all of this is paying for all of that. Is what it feels like to me. Because when we look in the city, we're still at a stage where I tell people, I'm like, if you're on the fence between the city or a suburb, definitely choose the city. Your taxes are still significantly less. And there are some people that fits. I used to do more of it. I think when we were younger and I had friends that they didn't know if they wanted to move out of the city or whatnot. Politics aside, there's actually right now, I mean, there's been some softening. If there's been any softening in values, it's been in the city. And taxes as a relationship to value are less. So if you're in between or know somebody who's in between, there might be like a silver lining of a bit of a deal there, because I don't see the Collar County problem going away.
No, I mean, I think when you look at it like side by side, if you go like state by state, you really look at Illinois, the problem that you get into the collar counties and the suburbs are these extremely fractured school districts. So you have, 6 elementary schools, you then have, that feed into 5 junior highs and 2 high schools. And we'll pull up a tax bill or two, we'll show you guys here in a second, but that's 6 principals for those elementary schools, 6 assistant principal. It's this bloat of high salary public school officials, and then their pension burden.
Right. And which is the huge cost. And I'd like to take a pause right there and talk about all of the Illinois teachers that I see at the gym in St. John in the morning. No, granted, you can't really hold it against the teachers for taking advantage or using that system, right? If you're a teacher, I think it makes sense to be there, right? But
if you want to get real political, we can talk about the Chicago Public Schools union president living out here too. But
yeah, and
go on with the girls you're seeing at the gym now.
No, it's crazy. So if we say these people are of higher education and we have to pay them because they're talented and we look up to them and all that, know this, that a large percentage of them, as soon as they retire, they get out of that state and then no longer contribute to the taxes. And when you ask them why, it's because of the taxes. And they were the ones, their pensions are the reason that the taxes are so high. And then they escape. I hate to say this because I've got some great teacher clients, but like, I do feel like if you're going to take advantage of that system, receive the income from that, like you should have to stay. Like you probably wouldn't see as many people take advantage of it then, and that's okay. The market would sort itself out. But yeah, so that pension liability that we have is creating an enormous tax bill increase, largely for the southern suburbs, and we kind of focus on that because a big group of our people live there, grew up there, have lives there. We're both from there. So we're seeing some things coming, and you want to show a little bit of what we're seeing happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, this is 2 properties in Piatone, right? My hometown. And we can see that this isn't horrible. So the nice part about Will County, if you go to Will County Assessor's Office, you find your property or you find a property you're interested in, click on the button, it links you to the treasurer's office. You can pull up a 5-year tax inquiry. So that's what we have up here. We can see the taxes pretty much go up about 6% between 21, 22, and 23. So one thing to know, Illinois and Indiana, taxes are paid in arrears here. So when you live in the property in 23, you pay the tax bill in 24. So you see 23 in the right-hand column, that's actually your payable 2024 bill. So this top house here, last year goes, about $5,090 to $5,400. So a 6% change. Bottom house, same thing. Almost the exact same house in that town. I might know a little bit about both of those ones there, But yeah, I mean, these houses realistically, if you look at the way that Will County taxes work and most of the collar counties, right? You're gonna look at the equalized total. You multiply that by about 3 to 3 1/3, and that should give you the approximate cash value of that house. So the one on top, you're looking maybe 270 to 290, and the one on the bottom, you're looking to hair over 300,000, and your tax is about 6,100 on the bottom and 5,400 on the top there. It's still livable. I mean, 6% increase isn't horrible because if you factor in between 22 or 23 and 24, you probably also saw a 6% appreciation in your home value too.
Right. Are you seeing people have? So first off, how does arguing your taxes work? You want to talk a little bit about that? I want to preface this by saying, everybody and their brother that I know in Cook County is going to be appealing their taxes. And there is a structural financial problem in Illinois. Illinois is structurally bankrupt. Okay. And that's not going away. And I guess what I'm getting at here is it makes sense to appeal if it makes sense to appeal, because you have to know that everybody's going to be appealing. They can't give it to everyone. So what you really need to look at is what your assessed value is and if it's realistic or not. And a lot of them, I'm sorry to say, they are. Property values have gone up. We were talking a minute ago about in disbelief about how much properties are selling for. Okay. So one, we need to get a realistic idea of, is my assessment off? If the assessment is off,
first thing you want to look, like, obviously pull up your tax bill, and when you're looking in Will County or DuPage, all the collar counties, right? It gets a little tricky and murky when you pull up that tax bill, right? Because you want to look at the equalized total, and then you got to multiply that by that 3 ratio, and that should give you the approximate cash value. Go to call a real estate friend. You can go to realtor.com. You know what your neighborhood's selling for, right? Okay, so if my house is assessed, after I multiply that by 3 1/3, and that number comes in at 350, and everything in my neighborhood is selling for 400, you don't want to appeal your taxes.
Don't say anything.
And here's why, right?
Maybe vote differently, but don't say anything to the assessor.
Well, yeah, like I always laugh too. Like you've sold new construction houses. I've dealt with mortgages on new construction houses. The builders always loved it. Oh yeah, the tax bill is going to be this. We both know this, right? In Illinois, you pay transfer tax. The seller or the buyer pays a transfer tax. The value of that transfer tax is determined by the sales price of that home. That's what the assessor has that data. It's no surprise. That's public record. So you're not going to be able to play a game and be like, oh, well, that house sold for that. No, didn't it really? Here's the, you can go look at the little transfer tax stamp and you'll see what it sold for. So you see it selling for everything in the neighborhood for 400. Your assessed value is 350. Probably keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
You don't want to draw ire from the assessor either. And now, if your house and everything in your neighborhood selling for 250, and your tax bill is based on a $350,000 valuation, there's 2 ways to do it. In a couple of weeks, we're actually going to have Harris Kuklakis on. He's an attorney that specializes in some real estate tax, whatever you want to call it, contesting or appealing. And he'll walk through that process. I highly recommend that you use an attorney for that stuff, though. You could get lost in the weeds pretty quick. There's a very narrow window to do it. It's a lot of paperwork. But what that attorney's got to do is they got to find a couple, no different than selling a house or getting an appraisal. They have to find a couple similar homes and go, well, your assessment was out of line here. Here's the home values. This is what a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is selling for in this town.
Yeah. And, commercial and industrial people are using attorneys all the time. It's not something that we touch on here often. You're primarily a residential lender. I do a bit of commercial industrial work. Nick does as well. Some of the differences, though, between Indiana and Illinois, I had a guy looking for 6,000 square feet in Illinois, and I was able to get him 25,000 square feet for the same cost. Okay. The people in commercial and industrial are getting hit really hard. If you think the residential stuff's going up, hold on to your shorts, when you get into commercial and industrial. So, one of the ways that we can get out of that is if they're legitimately off, we can appeal and hopefully you can get some relief there. However, they're not off. All right. What's the recommendation?
Well, here's where the scary part happens, right? And I've been doing mortgages a while. You've previously done mortgages, and you've probably been through this before too, right? I have an escrow account for my taxes and insurance. Well, that mortgage servicer is going to pay that tax bill, and they're then going to call you and say, hey, you have an escrow shortage and your taxes went up. You need to get all this caught up. We're adjusting your mortgage payment to this
sky
number.
high.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're trying to recoup that money inside of 6 months because
they want to recoup that and the buffer, right? Because they always sit on a buffer in case it goes up again.
Yeah, and that buffer is 2 months of taxes. So if your taxes are $12,000 a year, that's an extra $2,000 right there.
Right. So we have to catch up on what the payment should be at the new rate and build that buffer back up, right? So things can go up. Where I was getting at, I guess.
Swinging a miss on that one?
No. That, what, so I think what were you going to say is,
well, you just got to be prepared for that because so what's going to happen, right? These bills came out in May. That's going to get paid in June. You're going to get a notice in July. And if your mortgage payment's jumping up $1,500 for 3 or 4 months, it's a real number, $4,500, $6,000 right on the dot there. So just go look at your tax bill right now and pull up your mortgage statement, look at your escrow statement. And then you can, from there, if you have a question about it, just give me a call. I'll walk you through it. I'll tell you what to prepare for.
Now, do you think people are better off to just pay the money if they can, as opposed to have it adjust on their payment?
Oh, yeah. You want to get that thing caught up right away. Don't screw around with it.
If you wait, once that mortgage company gets started down the road of the new payment, you're in that for a year.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So I tell people, I'm like, look, do what you can to try to pay that difference in. So if you want to get out of that though, right? The reason that I mentioned Illinois being structurally bankrupt, meaning that the problem that has created these costs is so far down the road. Like the books of Illinois, if they were a business, if they were a household, they would be bankrupt. There's no foreseeable path. One isn't even presented as to how to get out of it. All right. So don't expect it to change. So you can either choose to live with it, or if you want to get out of it, this is where people say interest rates in the 7s. All right. Oh, rates are too high. But let me tell you something, that we're going to lock in at that. All right. And prices over time should go up. Your income should go up. All right. So do you want the part? So if costs were the same, all right, in say Indiana, or I do a lot of outbound moves to Tennessee, Kentucky.
Well, you could have swapped from here to Florida. It's like a heat map. Everyone's slowly moving that direction.
Pretty much anywhere is going to have a superior tax environment. All right. So, you may say, hey, it's a large payment or whatever, but it's something that the lion's share of it is within your control. Whereas like when we look at it, we were talking about Sauk Village is facing some huge tax burden problems right now. All right. And these are very super cheap houses, but the tax bill is enormous. So a payment is equivalent of something much more expensive somewhere else. We'd be much better off to say, yeah, I don't like these interest rates where they're at today, but I can lock into something that I know is within my control. All right. Now, my taxes in St. John, my house in St. John went down $200. The books of the state of Indiana and are
a $2 billion surplus or something.
We had a surplus. So like not even like we're past balanced. All right. Reaching balanced is a huge deal for any state. We're beyond balanced. We have a $2 billion surplus. So they've got a rule that they can only hold on to so much money. So they have to give that money back to the taxpayers, and they give it back to us in the form of a credit on our real estate taxes. Winfield Place went up like 175. St. John went down 200. For me, it was about a wash, but they certainly didn't go up. All right. So this is where we think about locking in financial management of your household in a way to plan for the long term of yourself. In Illinois, we know that those costs are high and will likely go up. Somewhere else, whether it be Indiana or whatever, you can lock in, and the lion's share of what the cost is controlled by you. And if rates were to ever go down, it could get even better. Do we think is there much argument that rates could go much higher?
Fundamentally, I don't think that we could. If you saw interest rates on the average 30-year fixed rate above 8% on a primary residence, I think that there would be that would bring the real estate market to a screeching halt. It seems like 8 is the hard ceiling on that. So I don't, and we're starting to finally see some relief here on the concerns about inflation. So unless we somehow see a random hotspot flash up, I think that we're in the clear for the next 12 to 18 months to see rates not really bounce above 7.5.
And I think you could see things kind of settle in those 6-ish ranges. It seems like money markets, not money markets, but the financial markets, the bond markets, nothing makes sense underneath like a 6.
Yeah. I mean, if you actually look at it from affordability, if you take median income by median sales price and factor in about a 15 to 20% down payment, the 6.25% to 6.5% is where the median income household can afford the median price point with a 15 to 20% down payment. So yeah, 6.25% to 6.5% kind of, I think, brings everything to equilibrium. Not really a massive seller's market potentially, not a huge crazy buyer frenzy. It's just normal.
So I guess what that confirms for me is that you may not like today's prices, and you may not like today's interest rate, and it may feel like you're biting off a lot in a big payment, but that payment is going to be something that you can control. There's little argument that it should go much higher in terms of rates, and there's some argument that we should probably settle down a little bit. So if you can take that step to say, hey, I'm going to be really financially responsible for the next, 15, 24 months, somewhere in there, get my household budget in line, kind of watch how many times we're going out to eat, doing whatever. And hey, I can take out that larger payment. Over time, you will, I think, in a sense, have bought yourself an insurance policy about it. I don't know if anybody follows Sean Thompson on AM 560. He's on AM 560 from 4 to 7 p.m. He's a little bit more harsh than what I would be on this podcast, but he says, get out, go to a place where you are the one that's in charge.
Let's talk about some fun stuff about people in charge and getting out, right?
Sure.
So we'll out ourselves here. Well, myself here for a quick second. So this may or may not be a property here that I know about in the northern part of Illinois, where they had a 21% increase in taxes over last year, right? It's a lake house. It's a pretty nice area. Now, if we want to flip through though, all right, so that tax bill on that about $13,000 a year on a house that's probably worth somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 right now that was bought for $450,000. All right. This is the governor of Illinois' house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Oh, wouldn't that be funny that the governor of Illinois doesn't have his lake house in Illinois? Oh, gee, I wonder why. His tax bill in Lake Geneva is $20,000 a year. All right. Wow. Compared to a lake house in the chain of lakes in Fox Lake at $13,000 that is worth 1/5.
Yeah. Well, Pritzker family, I don't know if they just got called out last week for funding these protests. Them, Bill Gates, and George Soros are funding these protests, right? They're funding total chaos, while the way that they live their lives, they're looking for tax shelters consistently, right? He had that whole toilet issue.
Oh, yeah.
He lives in another state. The teachers, when they retire, they leave the state. All right. So
or the ones that are in charge of the Chicago Public Schools Teachers Union live in a different state.
So I guess what I'm saying is the smart people have chosen another area. I get it. There's a lot to having your family here. things that you're used to and all of that. However, unless you're financially super comfortable, which many people are, and that's fine, pay to live wherever you want. But if you're like the rest of us, is a working person that's hoping to retire or do something with your life, keep more of your own money, this could be something that you really want to take a look at making a move.
Eliminate the surprise. Now, let's talk about not irresponsible. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you can still get to a lot of places.
Yeah, so let's talk about that real quick. So, Tony, we know you love motorcycles. You love motorsports in general. If so, you're in St. John, right? If we're drawing a radius, it's a 2-hour bike ride at any point. What are some hot spots? Illinois side, Indiana side. You can actually get to Lake Geneva probably in about 2 hours too if you're really trying.
Well, yeah, and we don't really try, right? We don't push it. So, it's one of the things though that it's funny when I'm selling real estate. I a large area. People ask me, I'm like, well, how are you familiar with this area? I'm like, well, I ride my bike through there or whatever. All right. And when we first moved to St. John, like 9 years ago, it seems like I spent a lot of time cruising around Northwest Indiana. And now actually we do a lot back in Illinois. It's real easy, especially if you live south here. You don't have to go up to I-80 to get over. There's a couple of really great places. We really like the Illinois River area. So we go out to, and I guess, and I have to say, a lot of the places, I don't know if necessarily kid friendly, but I love like the restaurants and the bars and the whatever. So for you adults out there, we really like Ottawa.
All right.
Is a good time. Marseilles has a nice downtown. An area where you have some clients that has really improved their downtown, has some great street fairs, is Morris, Illinois.
Yep.
One that has become kind of cool that it would also be good for families, and the growth has been amazing, has been Oswego. Oswego is right on that Fox River. There's kind of a triangle where Fox River comes down to the Illinois River, and there's a lot of neat stuff in this area, some nice campgrounds and some things like that. So we kind of head to that area quite a bit. But Oswego, they have the kayaking on the river. There's tube rentals and things like that. So all good family stuff. Some neat restaurants and some neat places to visit. If you do ride, or if you're into hot rods or rat rods, there is a place, I don't think it's quite 2 hours, a little bit further than that, called the Psycho Silo Saloon. Have you been there?
I have heard of this. I have not been there.
Okay. So this is a town that's about 45 minutes west of Starved Rock, which is another place that we go to, the Starved Rock.
That's just a hop, skip, and a jump from Ottawa there.
The cafe. Yeah. So we go out there and spend some time out there. I forget the name of the town. You can look it up. It's about 45 minutes west. But interesting, there's a silo there that's on a railroad tracks. And that silo was either the last stop for water for steam locomotives before they made it into Chicago on that rail line, or it was the first stop coming out to fill up with water. And this guy's about my age. He grew up Langley, Illinois.
All right.
He grew up always looking at this silo, and so, someday I want to buy that. Well, what he found out when he went to buy it was that whole piece of property is technically its own town. There was a town there that supported that. So he bought the entire town when he bought this thing.
Really?
It's very cool because it's far enough west where you get people from Iowa will ride out to it. Some of the farmers out there in Iowa, farmers, as much as they like to tell you they're broke, have a lot of money. You'll see a farmer, you'll see a helicopter show up or two and land right there, and it'll be a farmer. And they've just really improved it. There's a big rat rod function going out there in about, I think, 2 weeks. They just had a blessing of the bikes out there with several thousand bikes, whatever. Like I'm doing commercial. Psycho Silo is very cool. But we also go Southwest Michigan a lot.
All right.
From where we live, we skip right past New Buffalo. A lot of people know New Buffalo, and it's great. It's become too crowded. However, I see at the main intersection in New Buffalo, what used to be the drugstore and a convenience store is now a new restaurant that they built over the winter. Tons of new construction occurred on Route 12, right? So from here or from Illinois, you can take 80 over to 49 and 49 up to 20 or 12. 12 is going to bring you right along the water. And there is actually an inlet where you can go into Beverly Beach. Have you ever done this ride?
I have not done it, but I do know Beverly Beach pretty well. I've got a couple customers over there.
So there is an offshoot off of 12. There's a road before you get to Beverly Beach that just looks like a bit of a nothing road, but it will take you all the way down to the beach. And you're so on the beach that, I mean, there's sand covering it. We have to watch on the bikes. Some beautiful houses on your right-hand side. There's some historic houses there. And that will take you right up into Michigan City, which has had some massive improvements. We go there a lot. And then we really do St. Joe a whole ton.
All right.
St. Joseph, Michigan. So on Lake Michigan, St. Joseph has the best beach. Great for families. It's a white sandy beach. There's a lot of volleyball courts on it. There is a carousel, like a carnival, to take the kids on. There's also a children's museum right there.
Nice.
And some of the restaurants, you know, there's Silver Beach Pizza, which is our primary hangout, right along railroad tracks there. That was the railroad stop in the 20s and 30s, taking people up to St. Joe from Chicago to do ballroom dancing when they had the Roaring 20s. They had a lot.
The Gatsby stuff.
They had a lot of big ballrooms in St. Joe. So this was the place, and it's now a pizzeria and bar. They have a roof deck with giant garage doors. You've never been?
No, I might take the rest of the day off and go up.
You have to go. I actually go up there quite a bit. Giant garage doors that open up. You can see a clear shot to the beach. And from the railroad tracks to the beach, in between is a big park that has water features that the kids can play in. There's guns, like water cannons that the kids can shoot and stuff. You always see that one kid standing there who's shooting the water up his butt.
A little animal action.
I'm like, I don't know, man. So, you know, it's there's a ton of places that we can get to, but those seem to be the main things. Our main rides are either like Southwest Michigan, or we kind of do that triangle area and then just decide what time of day do we want to go all the way out.
I love it. So you can live centrally located, the Illinois side, the Indiana side, 2.5 hour ride.
Briefly.
What do you got?
If I could touch on, like, so the people moving in Northwest Indiana are considering it, just because it's a large portion of our business. And I know that people in Illinois are generally not very familiar with Northwest Indiana, what it's like to live here, and vice versa. The people in Northwest Indiana don't even know that Chicago or these things that I mentioned over there exist. All right, we also go up to the Chain of Lakes and all that stuff. It's a little bit harder to ride to. You have to know Northwest Indiana kind of has two regions as far as I'm concerned, all right? We have this thing right along the border, all right? We've got Munster, Cherryville, Highland, Dyer, St. John, Cedar Lake, and even into Lowell, and then in Crown Point, Griffith, all right? This is all kind of like its thing right here. When people approach me about moving here and they don't know where they're going to look, they lump it all together, and they also include things like Valparaiso, Chesterton, and the things out that way. In your day-to-day life, you have to know that these two things are kind of separate. By the time we get to the Valparaiso, Chesterton, you're probably not going to be doing the things that I'm talking about, like going out west. Like, we'll go to Frankfort for dinner. We'll go to Mokino. We'll go into the city. We'll go into Oak Lawn. We'll do all of that very easy for us. My parents are in Homer Glen. Back and forth, it's not that bad. When we decide that we're going to take the move to Valparaiso, Chesterton, your life kind of looks like that area in Southwest Michigan. All right. Considerably more difficult to get back and forth to the city, to the stuff out west. All right. So just say that when I tell people, and few people listen, but it seems like when people hit me up about they're considering a move, they don't really know the area at all, and they just have heard of these towns. That's my first
So
thing
like
with them.
visually, if you have someone on that, right, they're looking at a map, pretty much just draw a line up 65 right into Lake Michigan, and then just go, okay, do you want to be west of there or east of there? Because that's seems to be almost a dividing point there, maybe.
Yeah, that's a really good way to kind of look about it. The like even people who live in Lake of the Four Seasons, which is technically Crown Point. Brandy lived there for a while, and she was just saying that, to get to anything over here is just so hard. You end up kind of not doing it. And I'm not pushing one or the other, just to give you a bit of reality. Because personally, I think like living in Valparaiso would be really fun.
Oh, downtown's beautiful there.
But I probably wouldn't be seeing my friends in Illinois
Or
like
your parents are out there in Homer Glen. That's all of a sudden an extra 30 minutes on the trip.
Exactly. So that's kind of how it works. But I think, really where we live on this line is great because there is so much that you can get to. I'm always blown away when I see people, like I see it on Facebook, like looking for something cool to do within a couple hours. And I'm like, you can't think of something? Like send me a message. I'll give you 37 different things.
It doesn't matter if you're on the Illinois side or the Indiana side. Send Tony Minadero a message.
Oh,
he's got you hooked up.
You know where we ride to a lot actually as well, that you may not have been much, that I think you guys would enjoy as a small family, is Monticello.
Oh, down by like Indiana Beach.
There's more than
stuff.
corn in Indiana. Yeah. There's been some. So for us, it's a real nice ride. It's a country ride. There's about 35 different ways that you can go out there. And if it's a place that you can go to and get back from in the day. It's a place that you can get lodging really pretty cheap. And if you want to stay overnight or for a couple days, there are a couple really neat towns within like a 45 minute ride of there. There's a couple just east of there, north of there, and whatever that has some really cool history and some neat events. So if you're looking for stuff to do with the kids, I would check out that area or that triangle area out west and see what they have going on for festivals and events this summer.
I love it. We're at the we have to go to St. Joe maybe next time you're on a Wednesday. We'll do the show live from there. We'll pick up Haig, who came here today.
Yes, we need to get you on a bike because when we get up there, there's going to be 47 different places that I want to go.
All right.
So
you guys heard it here, Megan. You heard it here. I'm got to buy a motorcycle. I'm sorry. Me said, hey, trust me with your mortgage just so I can afford one of them things, and a good insurance policy for it. Tony, anything else?
That's it. I think one, like try to make some more money because you're going to need it. If you want to get out of your situation, you're probably not going to be able to successfully argue these things down enough to change them. If you really want to do it, get with us. We'll put together a plan. Now may not be the right time, but we will put together a plan that does work.
That's it. The plan. I heard this the other day. I talked to someone about it. People always talk about a checklist or a plan and why that's below them, right? McDonald's uses a checklist to have a teenager make you a cheeseburger. Well, guess what else has a checklist? A pilot when they're flying a plane.
Everyone who wants to get somewhere in life, business, anything has some form of plan. Most people shy away from them because they haven't taken the time. They feel like they're different, they're whatever. You are no different than anybody else. And don't let putting the plan together things scare you. There's people that would be happy to guide you through it, put together a roadmap, and help hold you accountable for it. One of the reasons Adam couldn't be here, right? Adam is a bright guy. He's got a great business. Right? But he recognizes that you need other people to hold you accountable to your plan. And he's got a coaching call with a guy that helps him with his.
Oh, man, he's doing a tough one, too. EOS, that's a...
Don't scare these people away.
We don't want to talk about that. If you do the EOS plan, call us, too.
Ours may not be super tough, but you need some form of a plan, and you can get where you're going.
It always helps. Give Tony a call. How do they reach you?
708-259-3734. You can Google me, Tony Minadero, and you can even mess that name up, and my smiling face will show up.
I love it. That's it for this week. We'll catch you guys next Wednesday. Tony, always appreciate you being on. Go enjoy this 80-degree day.
Thank you. I'm going to try. All right.